What's up, my lovelies? Welcome to another edition of the Inside OU podcast. Hello, everybody watching on John Hoover's YouTube channel, which the first video, John, we did, how many views did you get?
Like the first couple of days, it was over 600, 700.
Yeah, and right now, the one that we had the other day with Rufus Alexander, that one's up to 500 or 600 already. So the video's getting some good traction so far.
People are actually opening their computer or phone and watching us talk about OU football. That's mind-blowing.
People are just as starved for football as I am because, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, John, but I'm so hungry for football. I'm so annoyed that we have sat here for the last month and a half basically trying to tell ourselves Houston's going to beat OU or Houston's going to score 40 points against OU. It's like, come on, just play the game. Just play the game. But, rest assured, John Hoover is here. This is Brady Trantham. And you are listening to the Inside OU podcast on 107.7 The Franchise. And if you're watching on John's YouTube channel, you'll notice that we're back at the same spot that we were for the second or third episode. We're at Blue in Norman. So shout out to Blue and Nikki for helping us out, letting us have a place to crash while we do the recording. But sadly for John, we probably should have been recording this we should be wrapping up by now, but you had to be a patient soldier for OU availability today.
Yeah, these things happen. We're all at the whim of the head coach and his schedule or schedule adjustments. You come down for 5:30 media availability. You line up for interviews at 5:30. You expect maybe at 5:40 they're going to get off the field and they're going to get started. No, we didn't start. We didn't begin the interviews until about 5. Well, no, it was after 6 because the show had started. I'm supposed to be on the air with Colby and Chisholm at 6, and 6 o'clock rolls around, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for Bill Bedenbaugh and CeeDee Lamb and the new captain,
and in typical
Jalen Hurts.
And in typical being patient for journalism fashion, they gave you a lot of great stuff to chew on that you're going to share first on the Inside OU podcast, right?
That's right. You heard it here first.
Oh, no. I don't know how many hours of my life I've already wasted covering the Thunder just waiting for them.
Yeah.
Paul George was the worst.
Was he really?
Yeah, it was. There was always this joke of whenever we, just for a random practice, and, they don't have a game that day. They don't have a game the next day. It's really laid back. It's like, okay, let's just go out there. Let's go talk. Let's get our quotes. Let's transcribe. Let's write our stories. And then we can all go home. Well, there was this one day where Paul George had to he had to get a haircut, and he was getting a haircut.
You had to wait on Paul George's haircut?
He had to get a haircut in the practice facility, and Matt Tumbleson, shout out to Matt Tumbleson, who probably won't be listening to this podcast because he's not an OU fan, but he's the PR director for the Thunder. He had to keep coming over to us and say, he's almost done, guys. He's almost done.
He's getting his sideburns trimmed up now.
10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later. I'm not kidding. 45 minutes later.
God.
And it's like an hour, and I think I was bartending at the time. I was like, guys, I live in Norman. I got to go. Like, this is all the way up over by the station in North OKC. So I was like, I need to get out of here. And I think about 5 or 10 minutes later, when I was on the road, I started getting notifications from like Eric Horn, like, okay, now they're finally talking to him. So it was always like, anytime we had to wait a little long, we were just like, they're getting a haircut, right? So maybe Jalen Hurts is getting a haircut since he's now the captain. He's got to get that new captain fresh cut.
Dennis Dodd was in town. They're shooting some stuff. They're doing, and he had to go live. He had to go live with the online video or whatever, however they're doing at CBS. And so Dennis walks in and he's like, "Yeah, I called Mike Houck and said, come here. We'll be doing some interviews." And I said, "Yeah, be great. I'll come over." And so he comes over, and what happens? He's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting. And then Bill Bedenbaugh shows up and he's like, "Guys, I got to go. I got a live shot. Supposed to be an hour ago, but no." And like, I've been in your position, just not as many times as you have, of course, but I've been in that position before. And I can only imagine if I were you, as soon as Bedenbaugh walked up, I would have been thinking, he's not going to tell us who's going to start. We're not going to get anything. I live in Tulsa. This is going to be such a long, unnecessary evening for me. But it's going to be a long drive. 2 hours here to wait for an hour to talk to Bill Bedenbaugh about who's not playing offensive line, and then talk to Jalen Hurts about it, guys.
Who's a quote machine.
Jalen, he's a great dude, and he's going to be a great quarterback at OU, but he is most definitely not a quote machine.
Well, did he say anything interesting like being a coffee bean again?
No, he's trying to be the best version of himself. He said that literally about 6 times.
Hey, I mean, I hope so.
I drove a long way to get that quote, guys. So you're welcome, Sooner Nation. I'm doing it for you.
I certainly hope so. I mean, well, I guess you were there. You heard things, and even though everything might have been as substantial as you wanted, was there anything, John? Anything at all that we could chew on right now?
The reason that they haven't put out a depth chart, for instance, should we back up? They named captains.
They named captains earlier today.
Jalen Hurts, Creed Humphrey, Kenneth Murray, and Neville Gallimore was the fourth captain. So those are the four captains. No surprise there. Those guys all showed up at Big 12 Media Day except for Jalen. I thought CeeDee might be like a fifth captain, but I guess not. Didn't get the required number of votes.
Was he a captain last year?
I don't think so.
No.
But he was at Big 12 Media Day.
I think Kenneth Mann. Somebody was a captain last year that's still on the team that's not a captain now.
I can't remember.
I could have sworn it was either CeeDee or Kenneth Mann.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And it's like CeeDee's is going to get taken by Jalen Hurts. That kind of makes sense from all the things that we've heard.
And that's what's interesting is, Jalen got asked several times, what does being a captain mean to you, Jalen? And, several versions, I should say, of that type of question. And he was very humble. He was like, yeah, man, it means a lot. I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And
take a shot.
Right. And he's very appreciative of the fact that he's only been here for a short time and the guys voted for him. The guys voted for Jalen Hurts as captain, so it means a lot to him. And I think we kind of saw this coming. I asked CeeDee about his leadership and his evolution here. And CeeDee, I think CeeDee was very impressed from the time that he got there. He said he hasn't really changed since he's been here. I asked Jalen about how have you changed, how have you evolved, what have you learned about the offense or your teammates or whatever, and gotten them to vote you captain. And he said, just trying to be the best version of myself. He literally said that. So, but that's kind of
what if he smirked at you when he said it?
He did.
What if he did?
No, he actually did.
Oh no.
Yeah, he smirked at a lot of us. Somebody asked him about being prepared to run out there on the field and going through the logistics, and he goes, "Not like I haven't done this before." I thought that was really funny.
No,
but again, one of the reasons I haven't released the depth chart to kind of float back to where we started was Bill Bedenbaugh and that offensive line. Mean, here's the depth chart still, as far as I know, as far as our recording of this particular podcast and doing stuff that I was doing today, getting eye exams. I got an eye exam today. I got new contacts.
There you go.
Googly eyes. That's what we've got for a depth chart.
Yeah, so, for everybody listening and not watching the video,
this is what it looks like
John
if you're a Sooner
literally
fan.
Pulled up the depth chart for the camera. So yeah, it looks like somebody committed to OU. Yeah, it's interesting though, John, because there's a part of me that kind of understands the. I don't even want to call it a trolling aspect of Jalen Hurts whenever he's talking to the media, but there is something that has bothered me. I've said it before, more so in regards to like he's not a game manager. Let's stop pretending that he's he lost his job to a guy that could potentially win the Heisman Trophy. Jalen Hurts is still a pretty damn good quarterback who's won at a high level, who's performed at a high level, and put his team in a position to win a national championship as a freshman.
Right.
Against Deshaun Watson and the Clemson Tigers. So he's not a game manager. And yes, he's going to a new system. And yes, he's going to a system that accuracy and timing is way more important than it was with under Lane Kiffin and Alabama.
I asked him that question.
Ooh, what did he say?
About timing.
What did he say?
Just trying to be the best version of myself. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not lying.
The reason why I don't really blame him for like that kind of troll aspect is I'm sure he's annoyed with this. I'm sure he just wants to go out there and just play ball.
That was the other quote.
And
he said it about 5 times. Man, I'm just ready to play ball. Man, I'm just ready to go out there and play ball. I'm just ready to go out there and show what I can do.
Yeah, it's going to be.
He is very excited.
It's going to be interesting.
Sort of.
If he goes out there and struggles, if OU still wins but OU struggles, it's going to be interesting how he interacts with the media at that point. It's going to be interesting to see how he interacts with the media if he goes out there and throws 4 touchdowns, rushes for a touchdown, and only has 4 or 5 incompletions, and OU walks away with an easy victory.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to change. If he throws 4 interceptions or 4 touchdowns, I think he's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to get the same tenor of answers and things like that.
This is like the worst time to do podcasts, in my opinion, is because we have nothing really like we're talking about like how is somebody going to answer questions, how is somebody going to interact with the media. Like, I just want to watch football, John. We're almost there. We've got OSU and Oregon State on Friday night. Nothing really fun on Saturday. Texas plays Louisiana Tech, but
Tulsa, Michigan State on Saturday.
Tulsa, Michigan State. Is that at East Lansing?
At East Lansing, yep.
Oh.
Spartan Stadium.
Tulsa can show out. One of the best games I've ever watched, non-OU, was when Tulsa went into Notre Dame and beat Jimmy Clausen.
That was a great game,
that
wasn't
was
it?
so
it was amazing. Yeah, I watched that game in Columbia, Missouri, covering the OU game that
old friend Trey Watts balled out in that game.
Yeah, he's a good player. I'm surprised he didn't end up sticking with the Rams.
Yeah, that was a shame.
Had some personal things going on.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, moving forward, we've been talking about the Houston game for John, like I said, the last month and a half, and
it's going to be interesting. The offensive line is going to be interesting if you want to revisit that at all.
Yeah. So with the offensive line, it seems like Twitter, every OU fan that I've talked to, pretty much all knows who the guys are going to be.
Yeah, sort of, yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey, of course, captain, center.
The puzzle pieces are all on the table, but we haven't fit them together yet. We don't know which pieces go exactly where.
And that's the interesting part, because I went back and watched the Houston game from 2016, and you see guys that became, all-conference, all-Americans, one of the best offensive lines in OU history, and they're playing in completely different positions.
Yeah.
So what Bedenbaugh said the other day about, it's not about finding the 5 most individually talented guys to go out there. It's about finding the 5 best players that play the best together.
Right.
And that's going to be I guess the problem, and that's really only something that you can only find out during football against an opponent, not in practice, because it's a safer environment. It's a place where you can learn. It's a place where you can ask questions. You can't be asking questions, in front of 80, 90,000 people against Houston. You can't be asking questions at that point.
So in the past, let's see, how long have I covered OU? This will be 15th year I've covered OU football. In the past 15 years, the 2 seasons that were what you Sooner fans would call bad seasons. 2005, okay, right after the national championship game, 2004.
2005.
And 2009, right after the national championship game in 2008.
Such a dud.
Both of those seasons, OU replaced 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. And they ended up going 7-5 and won their bowl game, went 8-5. I think both years went 7-5, won their bowl game, and went 8-5.
Well, I will say
just
this.
Consider that when we're trying to evaluate how good Jalen Hurts is. CeeDee Lamb's going to be an All-American. Creed Humphrey, the next first-round draft pick, right? How good is this defense going to be? Guys, there's so much pressure right now on the offensive line. The good thing that they didn't have back in 2005 and they didn't have in 2009 is they have Bill Bedenbaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Bedenbaugh will figure something out. It may not be in week 1. It may not be in week 2. It may not even be in week 3 or 4.
He's got a more than proven track record.
He's going to figure some stuff out. He's going to pull some guys out of the lineup. Remember Drew Samia starts first game on the bench. The other guy
started at right tackle.
Ended up at guard. He's going to do that. Bill Bedenbaugh is going to put the right pieces in place where they're needed. But don't expect, 550 yards and 55 points come Saturday against Houston.
Don't piss me off, John. You've been here for 12 minutes.
Houston's defense is terrible, and they were terrible last year, and they haven't gotten any better. They got a new coordinator, okay, but it's not like OU's just going to go out there with that brand new offensive line and figure things out, have things figured out from the get-go.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, I've thought about that, those factors, 2005 example, 2009 example, inside and out. And one of the resources that we do have at the 107.7 The Franchise is Sam Mays. And I went up to him a few weeks ago, and I asked him, it's kind of a weird question, and it might be silly, but I just wanted to know if there was any substance to this. But in 2005 and 2009, other than the 4 out of the 5 starters that had to be replaced, the other common factor between those 2 years was the one starter that was coming back wasn't the center. So in 2004, you had Vince Carter, who was a multi-year starter, who was really good at center for OU. He was gone. Yep. 2009, John Cooper had graduated, who was a multi-year starter as well. And so I asked Sam Mays, if you're basically returning the majority of if you're not returning the majority of your offensive line except for one guy, is it much more important if it's the center more so than a left tackle or a right tackle? Because you can have Orlando Brown at your sophomore, junior left Orlando Brown at left tackle, and then a bunch of freshmen and sophomores who haven't played, And it won't matter.
Right.
It really won't matter at that point. And Sam said, yeah, it's really important that Creed is the guy that came back, just not just from a physical standpoint, but from an intelligent standpoint, because he's the guy that gets everybody in line. And so I guess that's one optimistic thing you can take moving forward.
100%. So the guys that they brought back were Davin Joseph, who played guard and then shifted out to, I think he played left guard next to Jamal Brown, and then shifted out to tackle that. He was
the left tackle in 05.
And then in 2009, Trent Williams went from right tackle.
You probably played on that offensive line.
to I think, left tackle in 2009. I think. He might have stayed at right and then eventually came to left.
Do you remember what he did in the Sun Bowl that year? He played center.
Trent Williams played center. That's right.
He played center just randomly. And he played really well because he's a monster. Yeah. He's so good.
Yeah, consider who those guys were. I mean, each one has played 8, 9, 10 years in the NFL, been in the Pro Bowl, and those were the guys that were back, and it didn't help. When they started those seasons, both the TCU game in 2005 and the BYU game in 2009, those offensive lines were absolutely exposed by small, undersized, group of 5 type defenses.
Oh, yeah.
And here we are replacing 4 starters, the center not being one of them, but replacing 4 starters, and they're going up against a small, undersized group of 5 type defense.
And I can still remember like BYU's really small, undersized, speedy ends just getting right around at the point right at the point of attack and just destroying Sam Bradford. Like, yeah, he got hurt on that one play, but he was getting his ass kicked all day. There were so many red flags in that game.
Yep.
But like I said, you've been here for 15 minutes now. You've pissed me off twice.
You asked me on Twitter today, do I need to start drinking heavily this season? And I'm going to answer that on my blog, which you need to, if you're watching this, if you're listening, send me a tweet at John E. Hoover. Put the hashtag Ask Hoover on it. Ask Hoover, not Ass Hoover. Ask Hoover. Okay, come on. Send me a tweet. Send me a question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to answer your question on Twitter. I'm going to answer your question on the blog on our website, thefranchiseok.com, Oklahoma's fastest growing sports news website.
Hell yeah!
And the best questions will get answered on the show on Friday. So ask Hoover on Twitter. Hashtag Ask Hoover at Johnny Hoover. Just tweet at me your OU questions. I will answer them. One of the questions that I'm sure people have is, who the hell's going to play on the offensive line? And talking to Bill Bedenbaugh today, he didn't know. I think he knows.
He knows.
He's just not ready to reveal yet.
Yeah, but like I said,
you want to try to guess? You want to try to go over who they're going to be?
Okay. Center Creed Humphrey.
Yes. 1 for 1.
We've got Adrian Ely at right guard.
No, he's going to be the right tackle.
Right tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. I could have swore somebody was wrong. Okay, we got Ely at right tackle, which everyone's excited for him. He was some services, he was a 5-star recruit out of Louisiana, so there's a lot of hype for him. Swenson has really been talked about a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of optimism around him.
He might be the guy with maybe I'm told the most upside.
Yep.
Long term, outside of Creed. So he's going to be your left tackle.
Okay.
That's the guess here anyway. I've heard some other names.
R.J. Proctor's right guard, right?
R.J. Proctor will be right guard, or if Marquise Hayes doesn't work out at left guard, R.J. Proctor would be the left guard, and then the right guard would be this is what Bill Bedenbaugh has to face.
Michael Thompson?
I don't think he's advanced enough yet to be on that spot. I asked about him at Media Day. Michael Thompson.
And he said, "I'm not advanced enough yet."
Well, no, I don't think he was made available just yet. But there's some. I mean, Bray Walker's been in the mix. The discussion for was he going to start at guard? Is he going to be a tackle?
Yep.
He's certainly under the consideration, and I get the feeling that for the most part, Bill Bedenbaugh's got 7 guys that he's going to choose from, and 4 of them will be brand new starters. Whoever he picks.
I mean, really, for me, you've got a new offensive line. You've got such an easy way to go about this.
Right.
Run the football. Learn really quickly who your 5 guys are. You got to learn who your dogs are. You got to learn who's not afraid to get their nose dirty, not afraid to get blood on their jersey. You've got Trey Sermon. You've got Kennedy Brooks. You've got freshmen who haven't played that a lot of people are still excited for out of summer and fall practice. And you've got Jalen Hurts, who's a running back pretty much in his body. So just run the football. Houston should have like even if they stack the box, if they put 9 in the box, okay, then just let Jalen just throw a simple go route to one of these 5-star freak athletes that are all going to be playing in the NFL moving forward. So to me, the game plan offensively should be very simple. Run the football. Just run it, and then your offensive line will gel with the success of the running game, I feel, as time moves on.
I'll tell you, the other name I've heard at left tackle is Finley Felix.
Yep.
Instead of Swenson. And Swenson may move out to right, but I think Adrian Ely is going to be an important player for this line. And then the name we were looking for at right guard, who started there in the spring game at least, Tyrese Robinson.
Okay. Basically, there's about 3 or 4 guys that are probably still going to play. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of guys just kind of turning around.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll move outside, they'll move inside, they'll switch left to right.
Now, the problem is going to be is if OU's defense can't force a few punts early on and allow OU to pull away, then Bedenbaugh won't have that luxury. He's going to have to quickly find who can I depend on to at least protect Jalen Hurts.
It may not be a luxury if they're going 3 and out, though.
Oh, gosh. And
it may be a necessity.
Well, I kind of wanted to use the example of the 2016 Houston game, which, again, that Houston team is not this current Houston team. Now, De'Aaron King, very, very good, very, very talented. Probably better. Is he better than Greg Ward? I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Now, the skill position guys, I don't think they're as good as they were in 2016 because you had Catalan, the running back that transferred from TCU he ran the ball 22 times in that game. He only had 88 yards, but he had so many back-breaking, like broken tackles and short yard situations. He had so many. There was this one play where it was he just ran a wheel route wide open. He was so unaccounted for a handful of times.
Catalan.
So
remember who the quarterback was?
For who?
TCU.
Was it Casey Pock? Nah. What was his name?
Great name, Ty Gunn.
Gosh, how did that not work? No, so going back to that 2016 Houston game, OU had the same issue with their offensive line.
You're talking about Catalan, different Catalan.
Okay.
I was talking about a TCU Catalan. You were talking about the Houston Catalan.
Oh, I thought that...
My mistake, folks. My mistake.
Did that guy not transfer to Houston?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so.
I think you're
right. He played OU in 2014 and then transferred...
and played OU in 2016.
And played him and beat him
you're
in 2016.
You're 100% right.
Okay. So that game...
Don't question Brady's football stats memory.
I am a nerd. I'm a nerd, dude. Anyway, so yeah, that game, like we said earlier, we had guys that eventually played positions at a all-conference level. They were playing out of position in that game. And while OU looked kind of cool offensively early on, that did not age well. And Houston kept moving the football. They kept scoring, whether it was a field goal.
Big receivers.
They had big receivers, and OU had 5'8" cornerbacks that shouldn't be playing Division I football.
You're right.
Yeah, so that all happens, and OU basically has to find their guys in that moment just to move the football, just to protect Baker Mayfield, and they couldn't protect him at all in the second quarter, third quarter. It was really, really ugly, and OU abandoned the running game, I feel, a little bit too quickly, and basically the whole point of this is that is still in play for this game. Like all those things could still happen, even though this isn't the same Houston team. It's probably a little bit worse. The coaching, I don't know if you want to debate Tom Herman versus Dana Holgorsen. Holgorsen has a little bit more experience playing Lincoln Riley and OU, so there's that. But everything that hampered OU in that game can happen in this game, and that's my primary worry is if OU abandons the run game early because things aren't going perfect, and they want to just try and score quickly to match up with Houston's offensive firepower. That's not the name of the game, in my opinion. You just need to run the football, be pretty vanilla offensively, and hope your defense can make a turnover or two.
Do you think the onus is on the OU defensive line then to
Absolutely.
get some penetration, to get some disruption?
Absolutely.
Because you've got a play call, you've got a dynamic quarterback, you've got a play calling quote unquote genius, an offensive mind in Dana Holgorsen. So there's going to be some opportunities for big plays. If they can disrupt things, if they can get Dana in a 2nd and 13, 3rd and 9, fairly consistently throughout the game, isn't that something that is incumbent upon the Oklahoma defensive line. And maybe you blitz if you're not getting the penetration, you're not getting the disruption you need. Maybe you start sending blitzes because Alex Grinch knows how to blitz. He knows how to blitz. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, if Buki's out there, just send him on a nickel blitz every single time. Yeah. Just send somebody. Just make him accountable, make him have an impact on the game. And actually, that was what you just brought up. That was actually a question I was wanting to ask you about the defense. What do you want to see out of the defense? Now, I'm going to ask you kind of two general ways that you can go about this. Mm-hmm. One way is, of course, the right answer, because it's like asking, what do you want to do tomorrow? Do you want to get a raise? Well, yes, of course. But is it realistic that you'll get a raise tomorrow? It's well, no. So you got to think of some caveats. So what do you want to see out of this OU defense? Do you want to see them make big plays? And that could be multiple sacks, interceptions, forcing turnovers. That's the right answer. Mm-hmm. Or do you want to see them just simply not screw up? And that can mean
wrong answer.
Don't let guys break tackles, no arm tackling, nobody out of position, nobody with their arms up in the air, what the hell am I supposed to be doing?
Communication.
Communication. To me, that would be the most important thing, because OU's more than likely going to win this game. But if they win this game because they just get a lucky missed throw that turns into a Parnell Motley interception, it seemed like all of Motley's interceptions last year were just bad throws. They weren't ball hawking plays.
That's true, yeah.
If that's where this game comes down to, and all those things happened, I'm not going to be very optimistic about this defense. It's going to be a process. But if they just do the small things, create some penetration, not let De'Aaron Ward just stand back there like a statue, have a sip of beer, and then toss a ball to a wide open guy. But anybody in front of you, tackle him. Don't arm tackle. Right. Don't try to deliver the big hit Buki or 5'8". Just small things, John. That's what I want to see.
It's really small things. For me, what I'm after. Alex Grinch yesterday or Monday said it would be a great disappointment if they didn't have 2 turnovers. If they didn't average 2 turnovers.
I think that's important, just to have that mentality and to have that standard. You have to have a standard.
That's a standard.
That.
So ripping the football out, stripping it when you get to near the quarterback, that kind of thing. Getting your hands up when you're rushing. Getting maybe a tip ball in the air, something like that. Okay, that's one. Be disruptive. Be a ball hawking defense. Do what you've been saying you're going to do. Number 2, tackle. Tackle in space. Tackle with sure hands. Tackle, wrap up. And then the other side of that is gang tackle. If somebody misses the first tackle, there needs to be 4 or 5 guys standing around him, knocking him down. And then the other part of that is you tie those 2 things together. If the first guy's got him wrapped up, the second guy's got to start stripping the football out. And then the third thing that I would look for is busted coverage. Yeah. Don't get embarrassed. Listen, Derek King is going to beat you.
You're gonna get beat. You're gonna get beat by Derek King.
He's a great player.
You're gonna get beat in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between somebody is not in the right spot, and you just got burned by a very talented guy that's probably going to play in the NFL.
And that's supposed to not happen, because now they communicate better, because now the defensive game plan is simpler. Okay, nobody's confused. Nobody's going out there not knowing what to do. That's what we're told. So if you start to see those things with the palms in the air and you're going, I don't know whose guy that was, that's when you start to say, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, now if and I feel like we're a broken record bringing up Mike Stoops, but it's such a dark cloud over the program still, because the talent that's here, especially the talent that has been here for the last few years, Mike Stoops put his stain on them. It's there. So everything that we ever talk about how, they're really good when they're freshmen, but then they stay here for a little bit longer and then they get coached out of their own talent.
Exactly.
We heard this last year. We heard all those things, there's improvements here, like ball hawking in practice. The defense really kept up with the offense and, in fact, won some days during practice. Mm-hmm. And then everything transpired. But that's where the optimism is this isn't Mike Stoops anymore.
That's right.
So you at least have that blind, I don't know what to expect. So you have to, I guess, inherently that's optimistic, considering where OU's defense has been over the last few seasons.
Yeah, and that and Alex Grinch has a bit of a track record in his short time at Washington State. he put together some pretty impressive defenses. He really turned things around for the Cougs. A team, a college football program that consistently hovers around the bottom, whether it's recruiting budget, whether it's how many stars you average in recruiting, whether it's the amount of money that you spend on facilities, or what, they're around the bottom of college football, of Power 5 football every year. He goes in there, and what does he do? He turns around Mike Leach's defense and turns them into a defense that absolutely has totally embraced mentally and physically the concept of stripping the football, being disruptive, beating your man one-on-one, win that one battle so you can go get in the backfield and greet the quarterback before he hands off the football. That's what they were able to do at Washington State. Imagine now a guy who has access to Texas, and he has access to 4-star recruits, not 2-star recruits, 5-star recruits, not 3-star recruits. There's a lot of pressure on him to be good, but that's why they're paying him $1.4 million.
Now, I've thought of that as well, and that's what everyone's kind of clinged on to from, he comes from Washington State, he turned that defense around. Yeah. Maybe he can do the same thing with OU, but I feel like we've kind of applied this cliche that I'm about to bring up in other places. It's easier to coach those 2 and 3 stars to play above their heads. Whereas when you're coaching the 4 and 5 stars who may be a little bit more entitled, who may feel like that they're being wrong in some way because their unit is, like the defense is
Bill
bad,
Snyder.
but I'm not that bad.
Bill Snyder made a living out of it.
Exactly. So I feel that's a factor that I'm looking forward to. But it seems like from everything that we've heard from Kenneth, like Gallimore, Kenneth Murray, Buki, everybody that we've been able to talk to, or that you guys have been able to talk to, Ronnie Perkins, it seems like that they have all but bought in completely, mentally, verbally. Now, again, it's the question that I asked, I think, on the first episode, John. The real test is going to be, when mistakes happen, and they will happen. Mistakes will happen with Alabama's defense. Yeah. It's not that big of a, I'm not trying to slide OU in any way, but when mistakes happen, you just can't let them pile up on you, and you can't let them just continue. You've got to improve, and having that 2 turnover standard on your defense, I feel, is very important for that, because when mistakes do happen, go back onto the sideline, look at what you did wrong, let Jalen Hurts and the offense go down there and probably score a touchdown, then go out there and go strip the football and go get it back, and then everything that happened in the past, who cares?
Right. Yeah, at some point, Kenneth Murray needs to stop looking like an All-American and start playing like an All-American.
Well, he doesn't have the neck roll anymore, so.
Oh, he got rid of the neck roll?
Yeah, he got rid of it.
Okay, so upstairs he needs to play like an All-American. He needs to be an All-American. At some point, Neville Gallimore needs to quit being a guy who, and I think he's going to, when you take a guy like that who's not spectacular and you make him 2-gap, he's going to be very average.
Yeah.
And he's been very average. Now, slim him down, pick up his speed a little bit, give him a new attitude, give him a new mission, and put him in 1-gap. He needs to be that guy now.
Yeah,
right?
What
he
you
needs
were saying,
to be that guy and not be some average. That's what they've had. They've had a lot of guys who were either average or they were mistake prone. And those 2 things don't make for a good defense.
Yeah, what you were saying in the last episode with Rufus, knifing through the offensive line, I mean, that's perfect. And that's perfect for Neville Gallimore, because the thing with him has always been he is a freak athlete. He can do all these cool things in the weight room. He can run a 40 and a 4.6. Like, he's insane. But
I heard 4.7 today. 4.7. I was skeptical of that as well.
You see that. I see this in basketball a lot. And I don't want to keep bringing up the Thunder, but Terrence Ferguson is a guy who's an athletic freak. And
Harry Jones.
I see things. I see things that he can do in practice, just dunking the basketball, and you think, man, if he can just apply that to the floor during a basketball game with other guys out there and guys out there trying to defend him, there's no telling how good this guy can be. And that kind of applies to Neville Gallimore. When he is able to apply that athleticism, and I feel like what you were saying, slimming down, being able to knife through the 1-gap, that's exactly what he needs to do. And it's going to pay dividends, I feel.
Kevin Durant on Perry Jones. Remember? Perry Jones is the most athletic player in the NBA. Well, why can he not get on the floor? It's all up here.
Well,
90% of the game is half mental, folks.
Don't ask him. He went on his little media tour when the Big Three were here, and he pretty much blamed it on Scott Brooks, I think.
Did he?
I think so.
Attaboy.
Oh, well. It's never my fault. Okay, well, John, before we get out of here, because you've got a long ride ahead of you after you had such a just wonderful media availability at OU.
I'm still going to write. You can still read all about it at bfranchiseok.com.
And I'm going to, because I'm a nerd, of course, like I've said a zillion times. But I didn't want to prepare you for this because we haven't talked about this one time on this podcast.
Okay.
Who the hell's going to punt and kick for this team? And can we depend upon them?
This is a very underrated. I said this in the preseason. This is a very underrated.
How did the Houston game swing in 2016?
Kick six.
Yeah. Austin Seibert didn't have the leg.
Which is shocking.
It's shocking, but I never really inside 40 yards. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Outside of 40 yards, like nobody thought OU was making that field goal. I watched that game with my dad, my cousin, and our other friend. None of us thought he was making that field goal.
I agree.
We all thought it was silly. Just punt it, pooch it, do something. Don't do this.
Yeah.
So this is important, John.
So who's going to be the kicker? And listen, here's why it's important. You're literally losing the all-time NCAA kick scoring leader, Austin Seibert. Say what you will about his ability to hit a kick in clutch time.
He was consistent.
He put it through the uprights. The all-time scorer in NCAA field goals. Thank you, Lincoln Riley. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get in the end zone to kick PATs. I said field goals. I meant PATs.
And then not to mention punting.
But he did it for 4 years, and he did both of them, and he did kickoffs. And this is a huge part of the game that no one has talked about all preseason.
The Army game, like people are going to point to the fact that he missed that field goal to potentially win the game as time expired, and he did. But there were a few times, as though you had to punt a few times that day, where he flipped the field, and he made it a little bit harder on Army to march down the field methodically. And, we said the Army game, so everybody take a shot. So, like, John, this is kind of a worry for me because people don't really ever think about punting or even, like, point afters or kickoffs, but Seibert was a guy who constantly kicked it into the end zone, never really had a chance, gave the opponent a chance to have a big return. He was a guy who could flip the field somewhat consistently as a punter.
Yeah, he was a good punter.
And like I said, when you got inside 40 yards and OU's offense stalled, all right, 3 points. Let's do this. Let's go try again.
So who are the candidates?
That's why I asked you.
Reeves Munshaw is going to be the punter. That's my prediction. I think
Reeves Munshaw. Where's he out of?
He is out of. God, I should know this. New Braunfels, Texas.
Yeah, good program.
Yeah. And you're punting, so who cares, right?
I mean, I do.
But the other, this is a storyline that is so foreign to us because we've been so focused on
Jalen Hurts.
How do you fix this
defense?
The offensive line situation, and then the Jalen Hurts transfer. Caleb Sutherland. I mean, is he going to be a guy that is the place kicker? Gabe Burkich was my thing. I think my preseason when I did way back in April and Lindy's magazine needed a 2-deep. I think I said Gabe Burkich is going to be the guy.
Can Spencer Rattler punt?
Good question. We've had Lincoln Riley half a dozen times, and the question has never once come up.
I mean, again, I don't blame you. I mean, no one really ever cares about special teams until it loses you a football game.
Yeah, let's talk about it again on Sunday night.
There you go. All right. Well, let me see. Was there anything else, John? Anything else at all? I feel like there was something else. Oh, well. I think that's just we're going to have to leave it then.
I think we did it.
So we're going to be this one was just a little bit of a shorter podcast since John was in town. I don't know how often John will be in town in Norman, especially after today.
Midweek, yeah. Now, next week, remember, the press conference is Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because of the Sunday night game.
Yeah, because I actually thought about that earlier today because it would have given Lincoln Riley such a good opportunity to, if someone got dinged up in the Houston game, to say, oh, it's a little too early to tell. Typically we have these games on Saturday and then we have a day on Sunday, so I don't have any information for you guys. Just another reason to just say, I don't want to tell you what happened. Right. He has a rolled ankle. Oh, well. But, so I don't know how consistently we'll be able to do midweek episodes in person, but when those chances arrive, we'll do our best to keep doing those so we can have some video. But
hopefully the lighting will be a little better next time.
Oh, yeah. It seems like every show you have something else out of your backpack.
I know, right?
That you didn't use the last time. So we'll have multiple lights. We'll have people with like a boom mic right above us.
Yeah, that'd be good.
We will be... we'll do our best to do a quick pregame thing on Sunday if I can find you. We can find some time because we'll both be in the same area. and I'll try to get that out quickly so you guys can listen to it before the game.
Cool.
But of course, anything else, we will have a post-game show either late Sunday night, maybe early Monday morning. We don't know, but we will get that out to you as soon as we can. But John's going to be busy, so who knows? And Rufus will do his best. He doesn't really know his schedule yet after the game, but he'll know it moving forward after the game. We'll try to get him on as well. But, yeah, John, thank you for coming down and having a good time with me and Norman at Blue. So thank you to Blue in Norman once again. But for
Great quesadillas.
Oh, yeah. I'm starving. For Mr. John Hoover, this is Brady Trantham. Everybody watching on YouTube, thank you so much. And everybody listening to the podcast, thank you guys so much. And y'all have a good rest of the day.